So today we're going to be talking about the Dred Scott case / decision. Dred Scott was born in 1795 to the Bow family in Southampton County, Virginia. Later, he was sold to Army General Emerson. Because Emerson was in the Army, they were stationed in multiple places. They were first stationed in St. Louis, Missouri, and later on in Louisiana. Eventually, Scott and Emerson moved up to the north and were stationed in Illinois for 2 years, where Scott met his wife Harriet, and later on Wisconsin, until they moved back to the south. While Scott and his wife were in the north, they realized that they were in the Free State Territory, and that meant that they were free. But Dr. Emerson had died, and so they were now in the hands of his widow, and she did not agree. So in 1846, Scott's case with suing for his freedom began with the St. Louis District Court. In the first trial, they ruled against him, but in the second one, they ruled in his favor, claiming that Scott and his wife Harriet were free. But the Missouri Supreme Court reversed the ruling, so Scott appealed. The case became known as Scott v. Sanford. It took the U.S. Supreme Court 11 years to make a decision.
In December of 1856, Abraham Lincoln gave a speech foreshadowing the Emancipation Proclamation. His speech was in reference to the Dred Scott decision. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Roger Taney, ruled against the Dred Scott decision, and 7 out of 9 of the judges agreed with his ruling. This ruling also declared that the Missouri Compromise of 1820 was unconstitutional. The quote was, "They had no rights which a white man was bound to respect." The Missouri Compromise was declared unconstitutional because no matter where a slave went, they were still a slave. The North and the South was already split, but the Dred Scott decision further split the North and South. The North was outraged because of the Dred Scott decision, and the South was happy, which led to the Civil War.
Mr. Emerson returned Dred Scott to the Blow family. On May 1857, the Blow family gave Dred Scott his freedom. Later, the Supreme Court ruled that the 13th Amendment and the 14th Amendment would help Dred Scott in his appealing. Freedom for a year until he was murdered by tuberculosis. Thank you for your attention.
He said murder. He didn't say he died of tuberculosis. Let's just say he died of tuberculosis.